So October of 16, I went to get my annual Pap and breast exam. A week later, I got called back to state that my mammogram came back abnormal and they wanted to see if I would come back in for another picture. So I came back in the next week. I had a second mammogram. So they said, we're going to give you an ultrasound as well with this mammogram. So the doctor came in and explained to me that the ultrasound seen 2 pictures, whereas the mammogram only seen 1. So the next week I came in, they gave me another mammogram, then they gave me another ultrasound. They had seen 2 spots. However, that first week, prior week, they only showed 1 spot on the ultrasound. So the doctor was prepared to do the biopsy on that one area. He stated that he wasn't alarmed, but now that we were into the second picture, that both spots showed up, both on the mammogram and the ultrasound. So he says, well, while I'm doing that one biopsy, can I do both areas? I said, sure. This happened on a Thursday. He said, well, we should get the results back in a day or so. So over the weekend, I was nervous about the biopsy, even though the doctor had told me it was nothing to be worried about. Someone called me and said, your doctor's office will contact you for you to come in for your results. I said, well, why can't you tell me my results? They said, well, your doctor would tell you. So I called my OB doctor and I asked him, did he get the results? He says, well, they didn't give you the results. He said, how soon can you be there? I said, I'll be there in 20 minutes. He calls me back and he says, well, you had your mammogram and I seen where they had a concern. He says, well, you have cancer. I said, what do you mean I have cancer? And he says, well, you know, this is what the results show. And I was at a loss for words. I turned red as a beet. I was bawling like a baby. He says, don't go anywhere. I want to see if I can get a colleague in this office to talk with you in the building. He came back, he said, we have a doctor that can see you within the hour. I said, okay. I couldn't gain my composure. I stayed in the room for about 15 minutes just crying. As I left the doctor's office, they were trying to say something to me. I didn't hear anything. So as I go home to pick up my son to take him to work, first thing he says, well, Mom, how was your doctor's appointment? I said, well, son, it wasn't that good. He said, well, what could be wrong? I said, I have cancer. So I told him to have a good day after that, and knowing that he wasn't going to have a good day, I went back to the doctor's office to wait for my appointment. I was numb. I couldn't even think of anything. So she told me that they would get the results of what stage I was at, and normally they don't find out the stages until after they remove it, but per the picture, I was at a stage 1. So they came back and they found out that I had triple negative. She says, well, we have time, we'll wait till after the holidays. I found out I had cancer on November 7th. She said, we'll wait till after the holidays to do the surgery. I said, no, if you said triple negative is aggressive, I want it done as soon as possible. She says, oh, you can wait. I said, no, I don't want to wait. And I didn't wait. I had my surgery December 19th. I opted to get a double mastectomy. And January 13th, I started chemo, had 16 rounds of chemo. I finished chemo June 6th. I went in expecting the worst because when I hear cancer, I thought the worst. My father had died in 2010 of lung cancer. So immediately before chemo, I just knew that I was going to look bad, feel bad, be sick, not able to care for myself. I thought the worst. I didn't have a mother or a father. Both had previously passed. All I had was a 13-year-old daughter at that time, and a 21-year-old son who is disabled. But without parents, I had a entourage of people going to doctor's appointments with me, helping me, caring for me, fixing me food, calls, phone calls, cards, everything, you name it. I never felt alone. But as I started the chemo treatments, I just knew that I was going to be sick. I went in thinking, oh, I'm going to be really sick. Not one time did I get sick. Not one time did I throw up. Every 3 days after chemo, I would get tired. That's the most that I had to deal with. This next statement I'm going to say may sound anal. The worst part of cancer for me was losing my hair. Everything that the doctors told me that I was going to go through, I did. Losing my hair, I was expecting it. I always kept my hair cut short, pixie cut. People say, well, you always kept a short cut. And I would say to them, what's the difference between short and bald? One, you have a choice, the other one you don't. So I had a friend cut my hair lower. No, before I did that, I said, I just want to feel pretty before I go through chemo because I don't know what it's going to do to my body. My girlfriend fixed my hair. They did makeup. I had a photo shoot. All my friends, my kids, just had a wonderful time. And those pictures got so many hits on Facebook of how pretty I looked. I thought that I would never look that way again because I didn't know what I was going to go through. But as I cut my hair down, they said after my second treatment that my hair would fall out. Yeah, it did. I went to my girlfriend, I went back to her, I said, go ahead, cut me bald, because I showered that morning, and when I showered, hair was just in my hands as I washed my hair, and I didn't want to look at it. She shaved me, I put on a day scarf. I went from a day scarf to a night scarf for 2 months. My children didn't see me without my scarf. I didn't see me without my scarf. One day I got out the shower and I wiped the mirror and I seen my head. I cried as if they had just told me I had cancer again. That was the biggest shock, even though I was trying to prepare myself. It's just like saying, a person is sick and they're going to pass. Even though you know that you would like to relieve that pressure from a person, you're still going to be in shock when it happens. So that's how I felt when I seen my head. My daughter walked in on me one day without my scarf on as I was getting dressed. And I told her she took away my option for sharing it with you. She walked in and she said, Mom, you're still beautiful. And I said, thank you. And she told me, don't cry because, your hair don't make you. And it's not that I thought that my hair made me. It was just, that was just everything to me at that point. And I asked myself, am I a coward for not showing my head because I know I have cancer? And I had someone say to me, everybody deals with things differently. Even in the process of finding out I had cancer, I wanted to feel human enough to let everybody know I'm scared. I trust God, but I'm brave enough to tell God I'm scared. I asked him why, and I know we're not to question why. And a cousin of mine who's a pastor, he says, why not you? I said, after all I've been through, I've had 2 rotator surgeries, I had a knee replacement, I've had all kind of ailments where my 12-year-old daughter had to take care of me, dress me before school, take care of me and her brother. You know, I was already down. I said, now I got cancer. What else is next? And when I told my daughter I had cancer, she says, why you, Mom? Why everything happened so bad to you? Now I know that it was to share my testimony. I take having had cancer, because I'm cancer-free, as a badge of honor to know that I did make it through. I have mentored to people. I've talked to people. I did not join groups because I didn't know if it was going to be a pity party or what. But I learned to realize now that somebody can learn from your experience. And my experience have taken me to a different height. And I'm thankful and honored that I am a survivor.
It was a nice, warm, sunny day, and I was going in for my annual pap smear. I sat there in the doctor's office in Atlanta, Georgia, and just normally routine. And on the exam table, the doctor mentioned that I had a little bit of a discharge and something was going on, and he was going to send it in for a test. And I'll get the information back in a day or so. So I didn't think nothing of it, because I had been getting pap smears every year, trying to make sure I keep myself healthy. But that was on a Monday, and I think about Wednesday, I got the call from the office, and they said I needed to come in. It was in 1993. At that time, they didn't do a lot of giving you information over the phone, so it required an office visit. So I made the appointment to go in the next day, took off work, went in, and came into the office, sat down in the doctor's office, and he said, your test came back malignant on your cervix. And he said, you have cancer. I said, no, not me. I can't have cancer. Being a devout Christian and one that prayed and went to church and did all of the devotionals and piety to the Lord, I thought, wow, what in the world is going on? Thinking that this couldn't happen to me. But it helped me to realize that it can happen to anyone. And the key to it is that we found it in the initial stage, and we planned the surgery. The doctor told me they'll probably have to take the majority of my cervix, and they did take part of my cervix in the surgery. And I had radiation after that. I did not have to have chemo, because they got it all in the surgical moment. But the devastation that brought to me was my children. I had a son and daughter in college. As a single parent at that time, I thought, how in the world am I going to provide for them and ensure that they get through this time in their lives? One of the things I thought I'm sort of regretful of, I didn't tell anyone. It was just me and God. I didn't tell my employer. It was Bell South at that time. I did not tell my son and daughter. I did not tell my church members. I did not tell my parents. And I'm not sure why I was led to do that, but I focused on service. The day after the surgery, with the packing and everything, I got up to go and serve. I went to the homeless shelter place there downtown Atlanta, and I tried to serve. I went by different places, the nursing home, to just sit with some of the people. I tried to do things that would keep my mind off of the fact that this diagnosis and this surgery had taken place. They provided me with pain provisions, but for some reason I didn't have the excruciating pain that the doctors had said that I would have after the surgery, and I thank God for that. So it allowed me to have people take me this place or that place so that I can be in service and keep it off of my mind. Eventually, the healing took place, and I was back to, quote unquote, getting back to work and the normal day-to-day things that I normally would do, but I still, and in my tradition, they say don't question God, but I was still saying, why God, you know, what's going on? I tried to eat healthy, I was exercising, I tried to do everything I thought that would ensure my health, but it still came about. And the key the doctor told me was that I got my pap smears religiously every year. It could have been full blown into my system, could have required a hysterectomy, but because of the early detection, we were able to catch it, and only part of my cervix was removed, and radiation, I think I had 7 radiation. It wasn't as many because of that early detection. And if whoever is hearing this, I want to encourage you to please to get your pap smears, get your mammograms, get your colonoscopies, get your prostate cancer exams. Do whatever it takes to ensure that if it does happen, such as in my case, early detection would help you and help us through the times where we can get the health care that we need in order to survive. I believe God led me and the doctor. I had a doctor that was a Christian, and we even prayed together about it. It's important, your mindset in regards to that healing process, because I thought every day, no matter how I feel, I am healed in the name of Jesus. I said that religiously as though it was my daily mantra to ensure that my mindset, my thoughts, and the way I was continuing to eat and exercise would ensure my longevity. So here it is from 1993 to 2018, and thank God I'm still religious about the pap smear, the mammogram, and those things to ensure that if it did, and I don't believe it will return, we'll detect it early on. And that's what I'm asking all of you who's hearing this. Please get your health care, get your exams, get your pap smear, get your mammogram, get your prostate exam, get your everything that I could think of that requires a detection, that may require detection. Please do that. Because of the early detection, I truly believe is the reason I'm still here today. Because it was aggressive, but they just caught it in time that I am now a survivor here in 2018 from 1993.
In July of this year, I had went in for a routine mammogram check, and it showed abnormal. So the hospital had called me back to let me know that something was going on with my mammogram. And I went back in the hospital, and they did an ultrasound. And then later on, they did a biopsy. And the biopsy showed that I had cancer in my left breast. Well, I wasn't really clear about what was actually going on, and it kind of frightened me at the time. And I was like, no, this can't be for real. So I decided to go and have another exam done. And in my second exam, I found out that I only had cancer in one breast. I had it in both breasts. So the doctors decided that they would have to do a double mastectomy. On October the 3rd of 2018, I had a double mastectomy done on both breasts. Right now, I'm dealing with the situation, but at times it can be hard. I understand, I really didn't realize the impact that mammograms was so important, because this was my second mammogram out of my whole entire life. I'm 62 years old and I only had 2 done. I wish that I could have had some done earlier, you know, like when I was a little bit younger than I am now. Maybe that they could have detected it early. Maybe I could have saved my breasts. But I was one of the women that was unfortunately that my breasts had to be removed. Each day that I get up, I thank God for that, because it's a blessing to still be here. But dealing with yourself and your body parts being removed is totally different, because you got to get adjusted to your body. You got to get adjusted on how you're going to put your breast implants in. You got to have certain bras, and that's one thing I never did before, had to go out and buy certain bras. But now I understand that you have to have really secure bras to be able to walk around normal. I tell myself I'm still a woman, regardless if I have any breasts or not. God made me a woman, and I'm gonna die a woman. So I would like to tell each and every woman over the age of 41, whenever it's time for them to get a mammogram, please don't hesitate. Run. Get that mammogram done, because we all need it. I only had 2 mammograms out of my whole entire life. I was always afraid to go get it done. But last year I had one done, and then this year I had one done. That's when I found out that I had breast cancer. Like I say, it's very important. If I had known what I know today, I would have been up on top of it. But I really wasn't aware of it. I wasn't aware of the critical part that women needs to have their breasts done. They need to do self-exams. I neglected all of that because basically I didn't think it was important. And then when I found out that I had it, I was like totally shocked, because all the stuff that's been going on for years that they have been talking about, women's had been putting it to the side, not taking it serious, well, saying that this could never happen to me. But it could happen to me. A young woman can get breast cancer. That's why we need to make sure we check ourselves each month. And especially as being a young woman, I think the age when they really start for women to have mammograms is 40. Is it 40? I'm not for sure. Because like I said, I only had 2 mammograms done in my whole entire life. And I think the age rate for women's, maybe 30, start at an early age. And now since I found out that I have it, now my whole family, all the women's in my family, they're afraid, because it could be hereditary. It could be passed down from my genes. I don't know, you know. But they are all getting mammograms. They're all speaking out, telling other women's. And that's a wonderful thing. And if someone had told me, maybe I would have done it. But like I said, I thank God, you know, even the survivors, the women that have survived, they are much stronger. We are much stronger now, because we are much more positive. We know we can reach out to other people and tell them, this is something that needs to be done. You need to keep an eye on your body. Your body changes over time. Because I know, being at 62, when I was 40, I can't do what I do now, because I done changed. My body has done changed. So they need to keep an eye on their bodies. Talk to their young daughters. Let them know ahead of time so they can be prepared for it on the way. And like I say, I thank God, and it's a beautiful thing that we have people like that participate in cancer programs, spreading the news, getting out there telling everybody about it, because women needs to know. And not only women that catch cancer,
men do too. They have breast cancer too. And that was something that I really wasn't aware of. So we all need to come together, and we need to just protect one another and let each other know it is hope. It's hope out there.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2001. Every year I got a mammogram done. I was very heavy breasted. I had very large breasts. So I had a mammogram done every year faithfully. And because my breasts were dense, nothing ever showed up. So I went in for my mammogram in 2001, and they saw a very small speck in my left breast. But the doctor wanted to send me for an ultrasound. So they scheduled me for an ultrasound in my left breast. So when I went for my ultrasound, I told the technician, I said, there is something in my right breast. Nobody could feel it but me. The doctors didn't feel it, but I felt that there was something in my right breast. So the technician said, well, I'm sorry, they only ordered the ultrasound for your left breast. So she went in and talked to her supervisor. So she said, well, go on and do it. So they did both breasts, and my right breast was worse than my left breast. It had spread to my lymph nodes. So it was a blessing that the supervisor said, go on and do it. So I had a radical mastectomy, I had chemo, and I had radiation. I developed lymphedema in my right arm, and which my arm periodically would swell. So I had to go for therapy, massages, and when I fly, I have to always wear a sleeve, but it's not always. My reaction was, I'm a very religious person, and I knew that no matter what happened, God was going to take care of me. I was either going to live or I was going to die and hopefully go to heaven. So, but everything went really well. I had no trouble. I have a very supportive husband that showed me a side of him that I'd never seen. We've been married 41 years, and he was very nurturing. I never saw the nurturing part, but I knew he loved me. So he helped take care of me, and my sister only had one, helped take care of me. So my main advice is to know your body, because if I hadn't insisted on them checking my right breast, it had already spread to my lymph nodes. So it possibly could have spread to the rest of my body. So I just think that you've got to know your body, and you've got to insist on being taken care of. So that's pretty much my main focus, or my main thing is to tell people, know your body. I've got 2 daughters, and I say, there's nothing wrong with feeling your breasts and just knowing your body, looking at because nobody will know it like you. Today, I have been cancer-free for almost 17 years.